This episode of the Red and White Podcast is brought to you by Nick Overcash at Prime Lending. If you're in the market for a new home, building a home and need a construction loan, or just refinancing, do yourself a favor and reach out to Nick. If you're just now starting to think about your options, talk to Nick. He's got the experience to get you the best solution for your situation. Everybody's situation is unique, and you need that experience. He's a Pack fan, and we have to support our own. And speaking of, if you mention this podcast, he'll support you by offering you $500 off your closing costs. That's a win for you. That's a win for Nick. That's a win for the podcast. So check out nickovercash.com or call him at 919-854-4457. You can ask him financial questions or just talk to him about Wolfpack football. Either way, he'll be just as happy to talk to you. All right, folks, we're back with another edition of the Red and White Podcast. I'm your host, Evan, here, as always, with my lovely co-host, Dustin. How you doing, buddy?
Good, I reckon.
Well, I guess we could all be better. The Wake Forest game did not go as anybody expected, and I won't recap that too much. I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody was disappointed with that loss. I think it was another blown opportunity. And just needed that game for a lot of reasons. Bowls, program growth, just beating a good team. You know, just one of those things. It just didn't go the way we expected it to. I don't know.
I think that it's just further proof that. I think this is a good state team. I also think we blew them up to be a lot better than they were because of the first season. And we're seeing now that those teams that we were beating aren't what we thought they were going to be. So I'm not sure that this is really that much different from any other year, you know?
Yeah, I don't think it is. I think that's exactly the case. You know, you beat FSU at FSU, you beat Louisville. You know, good wins at the time, but it turns around that everybody's beating FSU. And, you know, a lot of people are beating Louisville. I don't know. I think maybe we got ahead of ourselves. No, there's no doubt this is still Dorn's best team. I don't know if the performance has equated to it. And it just seems like there's been a gluttony of mistakes that have cost us these games. I think we've been in most of them other than maybe the Notre Dame game. But like this Wake Forest game, the players just didn't do what they're supposed to do. Kelvin Harmon doesn't drop passes. He was dropping passes. Jay Sam doesn't fumble. He fumbled. And nobody wanted to cover Tavari Hines for whatever reason. You know, so I don't know. Maybe the reality of it is that, you know, looking back on the season is sure we have a great defensive line, but there's not a whole lot of help behind them. And, you know, there's some issues. And if the offense isn't performing, I think you said this last week, if the offense isn't performing, you know, at top speed, then they're going to struggle because the rest of the team is just okay.
Right. Well, I don't know. I don't have a lot to say about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to say it was predictable, but you know, doing it one year doesn't Winston-Salem trend.
Right.
And you can see the trend of this season or this team trending downward. I don't know. We've lost, 3 or 4 now? So, or 4 or 5. Shit, I don't know. I can't even keep up anymore. Yeah, 3 or 4. I mean, Notre Dame and Clemson, okay, fine. But it's not like we played great against Pitt in there. It's not like we played great against B in there. We would have lost to BC if they'd had their quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, if BC has their quarterback that whole game, I find it hard to say that we'd won that game. We played really bad.
And you can say, oh, well, we've missed Hines. Well, quarterbacks is a bit more important than a running back for an overall game plan. So that was huge. So I think we lose that game if he's healthy. This game, missed opportunities, I don't care, whatever. Do what you're supposed to do, and you should win. But that's been the issue is guys not doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
I don't know who to blame for that. I don't know to blame player execution or coaches for lack of prep. I don't know. So
yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where we couldn't stop Wake Forest. And that just sounds hard to believe, right? You couldn't stop Wake Forest offense. And I think what it comes down to, and we've been saying this for a long time, is Huxtable's an issue. Dave Doran's going to live or die based on his loyalty to Dave Huxtable, and I think that's a problem. And I'll give you a little teaser. A friend of the program, Matt, put together a really good analysis. We'll post on the blog because it's just too much to read right now. But it's, it makes the case that the total defense numbers, which they hang their hat on, could possibly be fraudulent based on, schedule and competition level and that sort of thing. The numbers are really good. I read it last night and I was just kind of surprised. Maybe not surprised is the right word, but just eye-opening on the reality of it. Is we're towards the bottom of the ACC and there's been no defensive growth. Right, you're supposed to have a great NFL caliber defensive line, but the defense overall hasn't gotten better. Now, is it just one of those things where the stars haven't aligned and you have a bunch of freshmen in your secondary and a bunch of seniors up front, and last year it was vice versa? I don't know, but there's been no improvement, and that's an issue. And to me, it comes down to Huxtable. If we're going to say Dave Doran's got the program in the right direction, which I think a lot of people agree with, there are some issues, and I think the defense is one of them.
I understand the lack of growth based on the two parts of the defense at vastly different places right now. Mm-hmm. So I get that. I'm not at all on the fire Doran train like some people are, but I'm not sure that this year justifies saying that the program's in the right direction. And I get the record is going to be better, but the conference lead down. And this was, you talked about stars being aligned. The stars were aligned this year to do something, and now Wake is going to be story of the season instead of us.
Yeah, that's painful. I mean, that really bugs me. I think there was, like I said, another lost opportunity. I think that's why everybody's frustrated. I like to think that Doran has got things going in the right direction, and when I say that, it's just because he's elevated the talent. I think that's we can all agree on that, but is he getting the most out of it? I don't know, man.
No, there's no way.
I don't think so at all. I think there's a gap there, and it's frustrating. Yeah. I don't know. I don't want to dwell on it too much. I got a little bit more to talk about it later on. I want to talk about Emeka Emezi and the play at the end of the game. It's impossible to tell either way if he was in or not. It sure looked like he was in. I watched the replay like 1,000 times on Twitter, and it sure looked like his foot was near the line and the ball was a little bit ahead of him. You can't tell from that angle. It did justify more than 15 seconds it took them to review it. I just couldn't believe it was that fast of a replay.
I don't know. I didn't see enough there to overturn it.
Right.
And if he had held onto the ball, this was an issue.
Right.
So, finish the play, and then we don't even talk about this. We come out with a win. I don't want to hash over whether or not somebody was in. I don't know. That's a very common thing in football now, is fumbling on or at the goal line, and I don't understand why.
Right.
And if that happened, then we win, and it's not even a problem. So, I don't know. There's not enough there to overturn it. Don't leave it in the hands. Officials don't determine the outcomes of games, but don't leave it in the hands of officials either.
Yeah.
Like, finish the play, and then we're good.
Yeah.
I don't want another TSN type of situation.
I mean, it's basically what it was, but the real story behind it was that, I hope he can recover from it. He was just devastated.
Right.
And it was, I felt so bad for him, man. Maybe it's the dad in me, and I was watching, it's like, man, if that was my kid, I don't know, I would just feel miserable for him because he was trying so hard. He had a great game up until that. And, it was hard to watch. And then he comes out on Twitter and apologizes to everybody. I'm like, dude, it wasn't your fault. It was a bad play, sure, but there was a lot of bad plays in that game. I really wanted to, talk about our fans for a second. Everybody reached out to him, and I hope he takes the time to read those replies, because there's a lot of good words of advice. There's a lot of good support, and we only hear the bad side of it. We only hear the times when kicker misses a kick and everybody goes crazy on him. That sort of thing. You don't hear about the good in it. They don't highlight it enough, but that was really good showing by State fans. They could have very easily piled on, and nobody did. I was really impressed.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you're a player, you can't worry about that stuff. I mean, fumbles are going to happen. Turnovers are going to happen. It's just part of the game. And the Bambar situation, I mean, our fans were real dicks over that. So it's nice to see some growth, I guess. Because if you tweeted a college football player and talk shit to him, you're a worse human being. So
yes.
And it's good to see that kind of thing.
It was a small amount of people that did it. Yeah, it was a small amount, but they always get highlighted. But there was a large outpouring of support for Messi, and that's good. He played a great game. Otherwise, I mean, he made a nice catch in the corner of the end zone. I mean, he was doing his thing, and I hope he gets the start this week. Now I know that would mean Steph Lewis is hurt, and nobody wants that. But I want him to start, and I want him to get in the flow and just get it out of his head. I mean, I don't want it to haunt him forever. I think that's something that would concern me if I was a coach. Just throw him back in the line of fire and let him do his thing. I don't know. I don't have much else about this game. We all felt the same way. I think the bigger picture is probably the story. But we got to talk UNC a little bit. So unless you want to add anything else about Wake.
No. I will say that I'm just going to do it on one note, and then we'll go on to Carolina. We talk about the program going in the right direction. This is the kind of game I expected to lose 3 years ago. So take that as you will.
Yeah. Yep. All right, UNC. I don't know if you want to give it the preview. You want me to, but all I know is that they're bad. Yeah, they're really bad.
Yeah, but they're getting upward, though, and that's the shitty part of it all.
Yeah. Of
They're
course,
playing not so bad now.
Yeah. Who did they play last week?
I don't know. I was really drunk last Saturday.
It was the Pitt Thursday game that we.
Yeah, that's right. That's why. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
That was to go, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, they played the SEC version of.
Oh yeah, they played a bullshit team. Who was it?
Yeah,
they
Western
killed
Carolina.
them. Yeah, they destroyed them. So
there you go. They're not very good. They have a ton of players injured. They're sloppy, but it's the rivalry game, and the Pack being favored by 16.5 points does not make me feel good, especially coming off of that heartbreaking loss.
I saw somewhere on Twitter where that's the largest spread since Phillip Rivers was in school. So that could be bad. I don't see those as good omens.
I don't like any of the rivalry game lines that are double digits. I mean, I think those are traps waiting to happen. In fact, a lot of national guys are picking UNC. I saw Pat Forde picked it in his column, and somebody else, it was maybe Bruce Feldman or somebody, picked USC or UNC. It's just one of those games where you better pay attention. I hope Doran rallies the troops and they play for the seniors or something, because everything they've been playing for so far up to the season is kind of out the window. I mean, they can still have a good season. 6-2 in the league is good.
Yeah.
It's still good, but it just doesn't feel the same. I'm sure the players feel the same way as the fans do in that regards.
I'm in a situation where what happens if we lose this game? Where I don't know. Man. I'm saying I'm not on the fire Dorn wagon, but if we lose 4 or 5 to end the season, and lose to a cellar dweller in Carolina this season, I don't know, man. That's a tough spot. Nothing will happen, but there's going to be a bunch of bitching. or would be if it came to that. But I don't think it does. But it's a very important game for the staff as well, I think.
Yeah, I would think you would see the pitchforks come out. I mean, there's no other way to say it. I think people would be very pissed because Carolina's really bad, and they're missing a lot of guys. And being at home, just a whole bunch of things, and it would be an ugly scene.
Yeah,
to be honest. And this is not the year that NC State wants to have a coaching search. I mean, you just do not want to be involved with the big money that's getting thrown around out there right now.
And again, this is all on. I mean, we're a week out of ranking. This is not as bad as it seems. Yeah. It's just we got our hopes up, and it sucks. But that's what state football is about. I mean, we're still 7-4 right now. So
yeah, it's disappointing because they lost 4 games to 4 good teams, and 3 of them they could have won. Yeah. It doesn't feel like they played good and well enough to win, but they still could have won those games. And that was the consistent. Is like, hey, you just lost to 4 good teams. Okay, beat one of them for once. I think that's what everybody wants to see. They want to see you beating them. And I'm kind of getting my head of myself, so I don't have much else to say about UNC. I hate them. Don't lose this game.
No, it's very, very important. So there's no world where we should lose this, but there was no world where Pitt should have lost to them either. So it's very important to attack it like they're a 7-1 type of deal,
Yeah. I don't remember how many years ago it was. I would say a few, but it was probably 10 when I think it was it Darian Durant or one of those guys, like they lost 3 quarterbacks and they put a safety in as their quarterback for our game, and he ran all over us and just whipped us. Like, you can't discount that factor, so don't lose this game. Don't. I don't want to deal with it if they lose.
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with the madness if they lose.
Yeah, I might take next week off if they lose to Carolina. So, no, I don't think there's that much to worry about. So,
all right, let's hope so. Run our quick ad, and then we'll be right back. Picture this. Your buddy's a Falcons fan. You're a Panthers fan. You go to trashtalktext.com, and once a day, for 2 weeks at a random time, he gets a text reminding him the Falcons blew a 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl. That's quality entertainment. Check out trashtalktext.com and send your friends anonymous trash talk about their favorite team. As always, if you're interested in learning more about sponsoring the podcast or our sponsors themselves, check out redandwhitepodcast.com/sponsors. All right, folks, we're back. As always, thanks for supporting our sponsors. And we're just going to kind of take a step back and look at the bigger picture. After the game, I put out a tweet and I said, I'm generally curious, how do you feel? Like, what's your thought about Dave Doeren, about the program? What's the general consensus of it? A ton more replies than expected. I think we had 64 comments. It was a really good thread, and I'm going to post a lot of them to the blog. But the general consensus was that, things aren't that bad. I'd say 75% of the people said, we think Dave Doeren's doing the right thing. But there's a lot of people that just, didn't know. They were like, I'm not sure. I don't know what to expect. But there's quotes like, honestly, Dave Doeren's building a program, getting his players in. There needs to be some adjustments. A couple of them supporting, moving Huxtable on. Especially now, given you're losing some seniors and all that stuff. And so, I generally agree. I feel like he's doing the right thing, but I wouldn't say that I'm sure about it. It's really confusing because James Washington, we interviewed him a couple of years ago, says, how many signature wins does Doeren have in 5 years? Is it acceptable? Is 8-5 acceptable being a down year in the ACC? And all these seniors playing. Like, he's got a point. And I just don't know how what side of the fence you're supposed to be on when you have an NFL caliber QB, NFL caliber defensive line. You're just constantly making mistakes, and you have terrible linebacker play. I don't know. How are you feeling?
Well, I don't know. I think I don't know. It's hard to read. I think you can't. The program right now is not at a place where we can get mad at any point when we're 7-4.
Right.
We're not some powerhouse, blue blood program that's good every year.
Right.
So I don't want to say that some people are getting a little big for their britches, but we can't be bitching right now. The one thing I will say is all we've heard is how, this senior class, that was his foundation. This class will go down in history. And it's a great class. It's good. But is it being utilized? If this is one of those, groundbreaking classes, does that mean this is the ceiling?
Oof.
And that's a problem if it is. Then, that's not something, you got to look at those things at the end of the year. But if this is that top tier class that you build your program around, then we're a 7-4, 7-8 win team, and that's not good.
Right.
So I don't know. There's a lot of mistakes. I put that more on coaching and preparation mindset.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to those coaches can't make catches. They can't hold on to the ball. But there's a lot of mental prep that goes on. You don't see Alabama making those plays or those mistakes. So
Right.
It's tough.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, and that's exactly it. I think that's the sentiment everybody has is we don't know. And this being Dorn's foundation class, I think that's exactly right. What I'm taking from all this in the situation is that he just needs another foundation class. He just needs to keep getting better. And I think this class coming in is really good.
Yeah, but the best class,
it's going to be
other
the
good
one
he's had is gone this season. I don't want to say the only other good one, best one. You got to build those year to year.
Right, that's what I'm going to say. So it's the two in between his first class and this class is what's going to really define him, I think. We're going to start seeing those guys starting to get playing time next year. And if they take a big step back next year, that's a problem. I think that's the real issue. You have to keep layering on the talent in order to get better. As you're seeing, you have a senior-laden defensive line, but then you got a bunch of freshmen in the back seven, and you get mixed results, and I think that's something that has been a problem.
I don't know. I needed to break down numbers of records for Doran's years that he's been here versus that same amount of time TOB.
Yeah, which is interesting. I'll put the numbers up that Matt put together, he did basically that. Yeah, he didn't compare it with Tom O'Brien, but he definitely compared. Comparing our years, compared our schedules, and you can kind of see that we're perennially in the middle of the pack, which is exactly where we need to be at some point. But you just got to elevate it. You can't stay there, and we've just stayed there. And I think that's. I
think my thing is, we've got about the same results that we had with TOB, and better classes coming in. So right. To me, it's an instant. Well, the coaching's not as good. And we fired TOB for these kinds of records, but I'm not sure that. I don't know. I'm getting to the point where this might be who we are.
I think it's coaching, which is really weird, but I still support
I do too.
Doran. My thought is, look what happened with the offensive line. You bring in Dwayne Ledford, an excellent coach, and the offensive line gets better almost immediately, right? I think Doran is managing the program, which is what a head coach really does, and his assistants are the ones that are dictating the success. And I think he needs to evaluate that. I really believe that Huxtable is bad for the program. or not good for the program. And you can make the argument for Drink as well. I mean, there's just that. I don't know. I really think that he needs to look at those two positions and say, hey, I brought in a guy like Ledford who's a hot coach, and he's killing it. And they're immediately better offensive line. I mean, a really good offensive line. Why don't I do the same thing elsewhere, especially now in this kind of transition year? If he wants to stick around here, I think he's got to do that. He's got to take a look at that. And speaking of sticking around, I started seeing Dave Doran's name being mentioned in this kind of coaching chaos, and with one of the jobs being Mississippi State. Now, that's assuming Dan Mullen leaves, which everybody thinks he's going to leave. And with all these big-time jobs open, I expect him to get out of Starkville. And so I could see, like, Mississippi State going after Dan Mullen or even, Dave Clawson at Wake Forest. And that would be interesting to see the reaction from our fans if that happened.
If Mississippi State goes after Dave Doran, there's going to be riots in Mississippi. That's just that's a terrible fit. He's not an SEC.
I'm not gonna lie,
he's not an SEC coach. I could see him leaving for a Big Ten job, but I don't know that he's. I don't know. Again, if the season had finished the way it started, yeah, we could have worried about him leaving, but that's not going to be a problem now.
Mm-hmm. Right. I think everybody would be like, "Oh, okay, let's get a different coach." I don't think anybody would be broken up about it. It'll be interesting though. I mean, I think it's a real possibility because sure they're frustrating, 7-4 right now. But if you can sell it, I mean, he'll be 6-2 in the league if he wins this game. And then you could say, look what he's done. He's grown their ACC record, I mean, it'd be pretty easy to point that out and sell that to somebody. And I agree, he probably doesn't fit great in the SEC. But I could see him kind of in that Starkville kind of below the light
shitty
sort
SEC
of position,
job.
I mean, yeah, it's not a great SEC job. I mean, it's the reason Dan Mullen wants out. But I can see it. I mean, it would be interesting to see what happens.
Let's just say, quick draw. You got 10 seconds to make a decision. If we had to hire a coach, what assistant in the country do you go for? Yeah, assistant. Yes, head coach. We have to make a change. He leaves on his own accord. What coordinator in the country do you hire? Kendall Briles, Manny Diaz, because he is lit. He has that Miami defense up.
That's interesting, man. Yeah. That'll become full circle.
That goes along. You were talking about what a difference the assistants make. Look at Miami's defense, and there's your key.
Which is crazy because we talked about this before. Manny Diaz got, I think he was a head coach at FIU or FAU or one of those FU schools, and he didn't do very well. Yeah. No, that was Mario Cristobal. Sorry, Manny Diaz was at Texas, and Mac Brown fired him.
He was very, very young when he was there too.
Yeah, so I think it's one of those things that got better. I'd be fine with that. If I were going after a coach, I'd probably go after Mike Norvell from Memphis. I think you could get a guy like that.
I have no. I'm hearing a lot about him for the SEC job, and it would destroy me as a person.
Oh, he's got to be like 20th on the fantasy list.
I don't.
But anyway,
yeah. But yeah, I could, he'll get a job or a look. I don't know. It'll be at one of the big brands, but he's the perfect fit for a state, But there again, he's not going to get fired, and he's not going to choose to leave. So at this point, just a fun convo that I don't have time for. Let's move on.
All right, so I'm going to post all the reactions that people had. I thought they're really good. I recommend people reading them and just looking at everybody else's perspective. I think it's pretty fair. There's definitely some questions, but I don't think that there's anybody being completely irrational. Moving on, basketball, biggest game in probably the whole year. Kevin Keats' year. Playing in the Bahamas against Arizona. I think they're like number 2 or number 3.
Yeah, Keats already throwing shade at Duke, though. because Arizona's ranked number 2, and he referred to Arizona as the number 1 team in the country, or the best team in the country, or something along those lines. So,
Man, screw that guy. Screw Steve Wiseman. Him and his clickbaity old headlines. I don't even know what you want to call him. Fred Damaris, I think he's SID or one of his, somewhere in the athletic department, kind of called him out on it. And I don't know if it was him or maybe the editorial control, or they just, it was pretty. It's not what he said. He kind of took it out of context. It wasn't the context of the article.
yeah, well,
it was ridiculous. And I don't know if I mentioned this last week, but if you don't support Joe Giglio moving to Carolina and this Steve Wiseman guy who's just trolling State fans, don't engage with him. It's the easiest way to have an impact is don't read the News and Observer links. Don't tweet at them. Don't any of these things. Just don't engage with any of their content. And if anybody's paying attention, they'll notice. The numbers will show it. I'm not going to engage with him. I don't follow him. I don't want to have any part of it. He's not going to bring us any insight that we're not getting from somewhere else. And if he's just going to troll State fans and be half committed to it because he wants to be in Durham on the Duke beat, yeah, no thanks. I
don't care that much, really. I mean, I'm gonna read the articles and follow him on Twitter because he's their beat writer. I don't care if it's a negative connotation. I know how to. It's all about perception. If you see it that way to start with, then it's just as entertaining as reading it from a positive spin. I think beat writers should regularly switch around. That's the way it works. I don't have a problem with it. I think he's a troll, and I'll refer to him as that. I don't know. It is what it is. I don't see the big hubbub.
I just don't care. It's just not enough for me to be worried about it. I know a lot of people are making a big stink of it. And it's just, I don't care. I'm just going to ignore it. It doesn't affect me. Anyway, basketball. Don't get blown out. Play
shit. We win. We're in the top 25. Hard. That's all I'm looking for.
Maybe slip a nut punch to Sean Miller. I wouldn't mind that at all. Yeah,
undefeated. We might be top 10. So
beat number 1.
It's like March Madness every game for a young team that's not supposed to win. So
yeah, it's gonna be fun to watch. To be a decent gauge of where he is. Where the team is. I don't think you get too much out of it because Arizona's really good. So if they have a bad game, that's fine. But if they have a good game, don't get too excited either. I think just keep it cool. It's a lot of basketball left. Yeah, it's impossible to know what you're going to get, I think. Hopefully Abu plays and that kind of evens it out. I think he'll be back at some point. That's part of it. It's part of it too. All right, moving on. It's lock of the week time. Last week I got UVA plus 18 at Miami, and UVA flat beat them for 3 quarters and then just imploded at the end. It almost blew the line, but they still covered. And that was the scare Miami needed. I expect them to come out this week and probably beat the pants off of Pitt. But this week I'm going with South Carolina plus 14 versus Clemson. South Carolina's defense is good. Clemson's shown vulnerabilities. Though Clemson will win, I don't know if they'll win by more than 14. I'm
starting to think that South Carolina might be the size of the country this year. I mean, they're not great, but they're a decent team. If you play that defense at that level, you're in every game. So if they can get the offense a little better, of course, this is everything that was said about Muschamp at Florida too. But the Rhinos see higher in there, and they might be a problem. So.
What are they, 7-3 right now? I mean,
I think so. Yeah,
I think they're fringe top 25, and they've had injuries like crazy. I mean, they lost the wide receiver that torched us. They lost him in like week 2. I mean, it's just they're pretty good. I'll give them that. Their defense is really good. Who you got this week?
I missed last week from fucking. I don't like to say that word on the podcast. From Duke beating Georgia Tech badly. I don't know where that came from.
I had no idea either.
No, and you hit your pick last week, but I bet you would have took Georgia Tech against Duke.
I did. I told you that. I thought that was an easy win. No, I thought it was easy.
So I'm going to buck tradition here, and my lock of the week is State minus 16.5.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
Carolina's really bad. It's time to put some faith in the team. So I like State. I think that's a 21, 24-point game. Well, not 24 because that would mean we'd have to kick, but that being a 3-score game.
They have to beat the pants off of Carolina. I mean, they just have to just kick their teeth in.
Yeah, this is
they need it.
I don't know. Even a close win here puts a damper on the season. They blow them out. I don't want to say the 4 losses don't matter, but it puts them in such a positive spin. So,
yeah, there's always that beat Carolina and kind of rally the troops feeling that State fans have. You lose this game, and the pitchforks are coming out. So
yeah,
beat them big is what I want to see. Beat the hell out of them.
So, moving on from that, I don't want to do the Canada Watch this week. Well, the Bayou Bengals went up to Knoxville and walloped Tennessee 30-10. The numbers are a little deceiving. They only had 81 yards in the air and 200 ground, but the second half of that game was kind of like the Notre Dame State Hurricane game last year.
Yeah.
I mean, you could barely see the field at times with just rain blowing sideways. So I like that. They still scored 30 points. So against a Brady Hoke-led volunteer team. So,
two things about this game. One, I'm surprised we haven't heard Canada's name in some of these job things that are going around. Maybe he will in the kind of the second layer after the big ones get gone. I was just really surprised I haven't heard his name yet. But two, I saw a tweet during this game because it was nasty, and Ogeron comes running out of the tunnel, and he's just like barking into the mic, and it's raining. He was fired up, and somebody tweeted, and I don't remember who it was. I wish I had it, and it said, "I will never bet against Ogeron on a field that can support crawfish." I was just like,
that's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
I thought that was great because that field was a mess. Right after halftime, man, I think LSU kicked off to Tennessee, and he fumbled the kick, and then they were going backwards. It was ugly.
Yeah,
it was a mess.
It was. I mean, it was puddling on the field, on the turf. It was very reminiscent of that game last year. So
yeah, and it was coming in 100 miles an hour. That was insane.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, he continues to exceed everyone's expectations, and it's just a matter of time.
Back in the top 20 this week,
yeah,
I believe.
So.
Mm-hmm. All right, so who's your top 4 playoff?
I had moved Miami last week, but I'm going to bump them down after that game this past week. I understand there was a letdown, but it was Virginia. So I'm going dead on with the CFP committee. I got Bama, Miami, Oklahoma, and then Clemson.
Yeah, I've got Miami, Bama, Oklahoma, Clemson.
Wait, you bumped Miami up after that game?
I knew it was coming. I knew the hangover game was coming, and they actually won. So I'm going to support them, and I apologize if a 3-year-old comes busting in here. It's potty training time in our house, so he's knocking on the door. But yeah, I like. I'm going to give Miami the credit. They won. They have a better schedule. They have better wins than Bama does. So I'm keeping them at number 1.
That's right. All right.
Surprising. All right, my question of the week is: if you could have one thing on a billboard that millions of people could see, what would it say?
Hire Gruden. Next question.
Oh, I like it. Can we have like a little subtext that says "Go to hell, Carolina"?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. We can do that. We can put a bunch of different hashtags on it too. So.
Groomers.
Yeah, hashtag groomers. Yeah, feed me groomers.
Oh man, that Tennessee coaching search is starting to take shape as an NC State coaching search.
Yeah, there's not much more amusing than a Tennessee coaching search. That's fact. I mean, there were people staked out at the airport doing live Periscope broadcast, waiting on planes to land, and there were at one point it had 4,500 viewers. I shit you not. So there's a whole different level of derp involved in this. So.
It's crazy. I love coaching search season, and now UCLA paid $12 million buyout to get rid of Jim Mora. Like, it's big money now, people.
Yeah.
if you want to compete, that's the kind of money you're talking about. That is insane that you're going to pay that buyout just to have a chance at Chip Kelly.
That and there's a lot of talk about Jimbo Fisher and them.
Ooh.
There's a $40 million buyout for him.
For who?
Jimbo Fisher.
Well, I think that's if he gets fired. I think his buyout is $15 million. The USA Today article that has the salaries database it lists how many years they have left, and they multiply it by their salary. So I think that's why
okay.
it's $40
That's a lot
million.
better than I read. I was
Yeah.
even 15 million for, I don't know, man.
They paid 12 to get rid of Jim Mora. I mean, they're going to pay 15 for Jimbo Fisher. Probably won a national title.
Yeah, but is he trending in the right direction?
Well, he's had a bad year. That's for sure.
I mean, what have they done when they didn't have Jameis Winston?
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
But yeah, I think from what I've seen, someone's out after the game this week.
I'd take someone in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I mean I saw something. I think it was someone Mullins records are pretty close. I don't know, whatever. But someone plays in the West. He should have done than he's done, I think. But he does play in the SEC West, so I get that. But when you have Texas talent with that SEC banner, you got to be better than that. And they've done nothing since Johnny Football left.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, you think Florida State's got to be the easier job of the two, but Texas A&M's got a lot going for it.
I don't know
I don't know. They have big boy money. They have real money. So I wouldn't be surprised if they want Jimbo Fisher and they pay that $15 million.
and I'm starting to think Jimbo wants out Florida State because your name doesn't come up for multiple jobs unless your agent's pushing for it. And I know,
and he's come up with a lot of jobs.
He's expressed an interest in Tennessee. I know fact. But A&M, I mean, I would all over that. So that's a great job. You know, high expectations, but
support, money, facilities,
Exactly.
they got it all. Yeah. It's going to be interesting, man. There's going to be a ton of jobs moving around, a lot of coaches moving around. As long as they don't start, I think it was a couple of years ago, it was kind of a similar feel, and they started poaching, you know, NFL coaches and stuff like that, and it was kind of disappointing. So I'm hoping for some real coaching chaos right now. I want Mullen to leave. I want Gruden to go to Tennessee. I want Chip Kelly to go to like Nebraska or some shit. Just throw everything out of chaos. It's gonna be awesome. That's all I got. I wanted to touch on one thing. This is kind of out of the realm for the podcast, but it is important. If anybody uses the internet, this is important to you. The SEC is voting next month to roll back net neutrality laws, which is just complete horseshit. They want to make the internet basically pay to play. So if you use the internet at all, if you support this podcast, if you support other podcasts or other, you know, content creators, go to battleforthenet.com and let your voice be heard. It's very important. I can't stress enough. This is one of the most important votes that we've ever seen. And this is not a Trump-Obama thing. Ajit Pai, the head of the FCC, was appointed by Obama. He's promoted by Trump. So he's equal douchebag on both sides of the wall. It's about the internet. This is what it's about. It's not political. This is you have to do what's best for the internet and keep the level playing field, keep it free. Don't let the ISPs control what's important to you. So go to battleforthenet.com and support net neutrality. Please, if you do anything for this podcast, do that. I think that's very important. And my tip of the week is find something you want to do and do it. Step into the batter's box, take a swing. Something you've always wanted to do. You might look foolish, but you might hit a single. You might hit a home run. But you're taking a swing. Take your shot. There's no harm in that. So go out there and do something. But that's all I got this week, Dustin. How about you?
Yeah, that's it. Everybody have a good holiday. Safe travels this week. Pray for me as I drive construction in Davie County on my way to Hickory. And yeah, that's it.
All right, folks. Have a good Thanksgiving and go Pack.
Go Pack.
Go to Hill Carolina.
That'll too, yeah.
Hey, Dustin, Kevin, how you doing? It's Ed calling from LA, NC State class of '88. I just want to wish you and your families a very happy Thanksgiving coming up here. I want to thank you both for putting on the podcast, which I've listened to and gnashed my teeth about over the past few months. This football season really showed a lot of promise. I had to say at the beginning of the year I thought we were going to be 6-6, 7-5 again, just because of the brutal schedule and just because I just didn't have a whole lot of faith that this being Doran's best team with the seniors and all of his recruits and all that, I just didn't buy into all that. Now, having said that, I think I've been proven wrong. I think this is a much better team than in years past, and I want to give them a lot of credit. I want to give the coaches credit. I want to give the recruiters credit. They've done a great job getting some really good, talented players. The only problem is, they're just unable to execute, and that's a shame. I still really like this team, and I'd really like to see them finish strongly, beat North Carolina, and then win a bowl game. But I really was hoping to see something like a 9 or 10 win season after the beginning when they started off 6-1. I thought that was really within reach. Anyway, I've always thought that our identity really is just an average, mediocre program. 6, 7 wins, that's about all we can expect a year. We get 8 wins, that's a really good year. I know Dave Doran in his second year, he went 8-4, and I think he played UCF in the bowl, and they beat UCF, and that was a good year. Hopefully this year they can do the same. They can go to a postseason bowl. It's not going to be a New Year's Day or a New Year's Eve bowl, but if they go to Charlotte, Nashville, Shreveport, the Bronx, whatever, I hope they can win the game. Anyway, just disappointed. I really thought they should have beaten Wake. I don't think we'll ever beat Clemson. I think that's just going to be an annual loss. There's just no way that NC State can recruit or beat that team or outcoach that team. So we caught Florida State and Louisville on down years, but you can't catch Clemson also on a down year. So we're screwed being in the Atlantic. Anyway, go Pack. Y'all have a great holiday. Thanks again for everything you all do. Cheers, buddy. Bye-bye.